Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us with our first issue of Industry Live. This is for the IEEE Pulse's Non-Invasive Electrical Therapies session. My name is Chad Andreessen. I'm the editor-in-chief of IEEE Pulse, and I have the pleasure today of being with Alex Kent, Senior Director of Research at Cala Health. It's good to have you here today, Alex.
Hey, Chad, great to meet you, and it's great to be here.
Great. So I want to begin by discussing and introducing the audience to electrical medicine. Can you introduce it to at a high level, and for those who aren't familiar, explain what electrical medicine is?
Sure. Electrical medicine or bioelectronic medicine, as it's sometimes called, uses targeted electrical stimulation to influence the nervous system and its downstream organs. And the aim of bioelectronic medicine is to, of course, treat various medical conditions. And it does so by interfacing with the nervous system. The nervous system naturally communicates using electrical impulses called action potentials. And with bioelectronic medicine, we're able to tap into that nervous system network and generate or block action potentials to have some sort of downstream effect. And this is a similar concept to how cardiac pacemakers use electricity to control the function of the heart. And from the cardiac space, the use of electricity as medicine evolved into therapeutics that interface with the nervous system. That included spinal cord stimulation for treating chronic pain, deep brain stimulation for treating movement disorders, more recently, vagus nerve stimulation for treatment of epilepsy and depression. And the benefits of bioelectronic medicine are in the precision of targeting specific neural circuitry with minimal off-target effects. In comparison with traditional medications and other pharmacological treatments, oftentimes there can be effects both in the targeted area, but also in the non-targeted area of the nervous system. And this is what leads to side effects of medications. And with bioelectronic medicine, there's a precision that enables more targeted stimulation and typically reduced side effects with less off-targeted effects. And then on the more invasive side of things, there are traditional surgeries, and these surgical procedures are often very effective, but can have long recovery times. They have potential complications associated with them. And unlike these surgeries, bioelectronic therapy are often reversible and less invasive or non-invasive in certain cases to reduce the complication rate. And bioelectronic medicine continues to advance rapidly, and there's still work, of course, that's needed, reducing, for example, the invasiveness of certain procedures, identifying the optimal parameters for electrical stimulation is oftentimes challenging and requires a lot of effort. Some bioelectronic therapies can result in habituation over time, where the efficacy goes down as the nervous system adapts to the therapy. And so there are still some challenges, of course, to overcome, but it's really a great emerging area for treating various diseases.
Yeah, Alex, I know you have the passion in this and the experience, but a little bit about you. What first sparked your interest into the neuroscience and electrical medicine side of things? Is this something you pursued in academia and beyond?
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by the interaction of technology and biology to advance human health. And in my undergraduate work, I majored in biomedical engineering and really immersed myself in the field. And biomedical engineering is a very broad field. And so I explored various areas, including medical imaging and tissue engineering. But it was really the neuroscience field that captured my imagination. The brain feels like one of the final frontiers in medicine and for understanding human biology and disease. The brain is such a complex organ, and exploring how it works, how things can go wrong to cause disease, and leveraging that understanding to create therapeutic breakthroughs it's such a wide open space that it was really exciting to me when I dug in further. So when I began my PhD studies at Duke, I was lucky enough to have a rotation through the laboratory of Dr. Warren Grill, and this was really a turning point for me, and ultimately set the direction of my career. His lab works on precise modulation of the nervous system utilizing engineering principles. And very early on, I realized this was the space for me. It was really bringing together the intersection of so many of my different interests in neuroscience, engineering, technology, and I also quickly saw the potential for bioelectronic medicine to revolutionize treatments for various conditions. And so that experience in Dr. Warren Grill's lab and beyond really continues to drive my career, fuels my enthusiasm for innovation in this field.
Yeah. Was there a specific moment coming out of academia and choosing the industry?
In coming out of academia, I really enjoyed the work there, but wanted to make sure that the fruits of my research made its way to patients and physicians. There's so much work, great work going on in academia, and despite that, much of that work never sees the light of day outside of the lab, right? And there's tremendous benefit in advancing science for its own sake, and there are downstream benefits for more basic research. But I really wanted to have an impact on people's lives more directly, and so that was ultimately the reason why I went into industry, where the translational pathway is much more rapid, and really this pathway is very clearly aligned with the needs of patients and physicians. And so everything that's being developed at a company is typically focused on how can we help patients tomorrow, and so that really spoke to me. So from Duke, I went to work at a medical device company called St. Jude Medical, and was working in the neuromodulation division there. St. Jude Medical designed and manufactured deep brain stimulation therapies for essential tremor and Parkinson's disease, as well as spinal cord stimulation devices for treating chronic pain. Both of those are implanted systems. And really enjoyed the work there. St. Jude Medical was later acquired by Abbott, so continued to work at Abbott for a few more years before a great opportunity came about to work at Cala Health, where I saw the early stages of a really revolutionary, non-invasive treatment that I'm sure we'll talk about more. And I was also really excited in joining Cala Health about the rapid timeline from conceptualization of an idea to prototype to experimentation and iteration on those ideas. as a non-invasive therapy, the ability to evaluate improvements to the device in the real world in clinical studies was very quick, so we could get rapid feedback on various concepts, and so was really thrilled to join the team and work on the research side. So I've been at Cala now for the past 6 years and work as the senior director of research there, where I oversee Cala's scientific, clinical, and regulatory affairs activities.
No, it's great. Yeah, your experience in the neuro world could speak volumes, I bet. But let's talk about Cala Health. It was founded in 2014 with the focus on peripheral nerve stimulation and a wearable therapy. Can you tell me about what led to the founding of the company and how Tremors essentially became one of the landmarks?
Sure. Yeah. So as you mentioned, Cala Health was founded in 2014, and it was founded by Kate Rosenbluth as a spin out of the Stanford biodesign program. Kate was a fellow in this program, this biodesign program, and was spending time at the Stanford hospitals and clinics where she and other members of her biodesign team would observe patients and physicians and try to understand where are there gaps in the medical space, and recognized that there was a major unmet need in the treatment of essential tremor. Essential tremor is a very common neurological disorder. It affects over 7 million Americans. Of course, even more people are affected by essential tremor worldwide. It's about 8 times more common than Parkinson's disease. Essential tremor, as well as Parkinson's disease, the symptoms of these diseases can make it extremely difficult to perform everyday activities. You can imagine having a severe tremor and its impact on your ability to, say, have a meal or drink from a cup or write. With severe tremor, these can be very difficult tasks that we all take for granted. And at the time that Kate was in this biodesign program, the traditional treatments for essential tremor often were falling short for patients. The options really were medications and invasive surgical procedures. There are medications out there. Common ones that are often prescribed include primidone and propranolol. These are actually medications that are used off label. Primidone is indicated for treatment of epilepsy. Propranolol is indicated for treatment of various cardiovascular disorders. And so when they're prescribed for essential tremor, they're actually prescribed off label. Despite that, of course, they're effective for many patients. But in general, there are fairly high discontinuation rates of these essential tremor medications. About a third of essential tremor patients will discontinue using these medications due to side effects. Another third of patients will discontinue over time due to the lack of therapeutic benefit from these medications. And when medications fail, these patients at the time when Kate was in this program, the only other option was an invasive surgical procedure called deep brain stimulation, which requires opening the skull, placing an electrode deep into the brain in a very specific location of the brain using precise neurosurgery, and connecting this to an implanted pulse generator. And the system is delivering stimulation 24/7 and is very effective for essential tremor and for Parkinson's disease. But fewer than 3% of patients ultimately will go on to get deep brain stimulation despite this great efficacy. And it oftentimes is due to the fairly substantial risks associated with an invasive surgery like this. It can include hemorrhaging and infection. There's also a new therapy called MR guided focused ultrasound for treating essential tremor. This procedure is a non-invasive procedure that ablates the certain area of the brain to reduce symptoms. And again, it's quite effective, but it's non-reversible, and so often, if there's a complication, it can be challenging for the patient if the wrong location in the brain is ablated. So, all of this is to say that essential tremor was chosen. That it's highly prevalent. There's a large unmet need there, and there was a clear demand for a treatment that is safe, effective, and ideally non-invasive. And so that's the origin story of Cala.
Wow, no, it was very interesting to hear about the drugs to invasive neuromod to what is a non-invasive procedure but ablating the brain. Those are, definitely seems like something wearable would be nice for patients. Now, what was the scientific breakthrough that unlocked that for Cala and in targeting tremors?
Right. So, in identifying various solutions to this unmet need, there were several scientific considerations that really helped to lead to the development of Cala-TAPS therapy, which we can talk to, and the fact that Cala-TAPS therapy can, with a non-invasive device, target these same brain regions that are involved in tremor and that are targeted with, say, deep brain stimulation or MR guided focused ultrasounds. One of the key scientific breakthroughs was understanding that these central brain networks that cause tremor can be modulated with a non-invasive therapy, and this therapy can actually sit out at the wrist, stimulating nerves in the wrist, and still tap into those downstream networks. And one of the realizations for this came from the fact that when a deep brain stimulation electrode is being implanted during the surgery, a small recording electrode will first be placed into the brain to identify where is the right location for us to then put in the permanent electrode. And oftentimes, as this electrode is being placed down, the neurosurgical team will brush the hand, the wrist, and listen for an increase in activity from the electrode that's implanted in the brain. And when they hear that increased activity with the brush, they know that they're probably in the right spot. And that realization that the sensory information from the hand and wrist could get downstream to that tremor circuitry really opened the door to the fact that what if we deliver stimulation to those same peripheral areas, and can we then modulate activity in the tremor circuitry? So that was one of the key realizations. Another was use of personalized therapy. So to understand this, I'll just give a quick primer on essential tremor, what causes this. It's thought that essential tremor is caused by abnormal brain activity, and specifically an increase in abnormal oscillatory firing. Imagine the brain becomes synchronized in certain areas in a way that it's not supposed to, and neurons in these different brain areas fire together in an oscillatory manner. And these oscillations are traveling through the tremor circuitry, and ultimately reach the motor cortex, where these oscillatory firings actually cause motor contractions that are observed as tremor. And it was recognized that to have the greatest therapeutic effect when stimulating the periphery, was to personalize the stimulation to the frequency of these oscillations in the brain. And so what the Cala therapy does is calibrates the frequency that is delivered to nerves in the wrist to the patient's tremor frequency. And some patients will have a slower frequency, say about 4 hertz, meaning their hand moves up and down about 4 times per second. Other patients will have faster tremor, 12 hertz, their hands moving up and down 12 times per second. There's an accelerometer in the Cala device that measures that frequency and tunes the stimulation that's delivered accordingly. And this activity travels up the arm, spinal cord, up to the brain, up to these brain regions where there's abnormal activity, and acts to dephase the brain activity in a way that suppresses the abnormal oscillations. And this is based on a theory called coordinated reset, where if you deliver stimulation in a very precisely tuned manner to different neural populations within a brain area, you can temporarily dephase abnormal activity and restore normal firing. And so Cala, by using this personalized therapy that matches the patient's tremor frequency, is able to maximize this dephasing of the tremor circuitry. And I'd say the last kind of major breakthrough was just the fact that wearable technology was becoming more and more miniaturized with development of consumer technology. And at the time that Cala was founded back in 2014, it was feasible to construct, design, and manufacture a device that is the size of a typical smartwatch, and in addition to the normal components of a smartwatch, also it could contain the stimulation electronics to deliver stimulation to the wrist. And it was important, of course, to make sure the design of this wearable technology was easy to use, that would take into account especially the potential motor limitations of patients with essential tremor and with Parkinson's disease. So make it very easy to take it on and off, use large buttons. And so those are kind of the key breakthroughs, the fact that we could tap into the downstream brain networks with peripheral stimulation, the personalization of the therapy, and then the fact that we could design wearable technology that would be easy to use and would blend in to the patient's normal everyday activities and everyday way of living was really what drove the development of this therapy.
That's great. So Cala device is wrist worn. I think it's called the Kick, and it's something you mentioned also is TAPS. Maybe explain the name and what TAPS stands for.
Yeah, great. So that's right. So the device is called Cala Kick, spelled K-I-Q, Kick. And this is a FDA cleared device that delivers TAPS therapy. Now, TAPS stands for Transcutaneous Afferent Patterned Stimulation. And just walking through that acronym, transcutaneous means that the therapy is delivered across the skin. Nothing goes through the skin. Afferent means that the signals that we are generating with the therapy within the nervous system are traveling from the periphery to the brain. So afferent just refers to the directionality in which those signals are traveling. Patterned, as we talked about, the stimulation is patterned, it's personalized to the patient's tremor frequency, and the stimulation is delivered in a very precise way where stimulation alternates with bursts of stimulation between the radial nerve, which travels on the thumb side of your wrist, and the median nerve on the underside of your wrist. And then, of course, stimulation as electrical stimulation is used as the therapy here. The Cala device is prescribed by a physician and shipped to patients. And it's worn on the wrist, just like as I mentioned before, just like a typical smartwatch. And it's meant to be used by patients on demand as they go about their daily life and need tremor relief. The patient can start and stop therapy sessions with as needed with buttons on the stimulator. And when they start stimulation, the stimulation is delivered by electrodes that sit on the inside of the band. And those electrodes are positioned over the median and radial nerves. The user can control the intensity of the stimulation, specifically the electrical current that's delivered. And they set it to a point where they feel a mild tingling, a paresthesia sensation in their hands and their fingers, which tells the patient that they are successfly causing the action potentials in the radial and median nerves. And as I mentioned, the therapy is patterned and alternates between the nerves in a way that interrupts the abnormal activity in the tremor circuitry. And for most patients, they will start to see tremor relief partway through a stimulation session, which is 40 minutes in duration. And the majority of patients will see tremor relief that lasts for at least an hour as well after the end of stimulation. So there's this persisting effect that is happening in the brain circuitry that produces benefit, produces tremor reduction both during and for an extended period after stimulation as well. Wow. And then the Cala device also prompts users to perform postural holds where they hold out their hands like this before and after stimulation sessions. And this allows for quantification of the reduction in tremor that patients see, which with each session by looking at the amount of tremor power, the amount of how severe the tremor is before to after every stimulation session. And then when not in use, patients can wear their kick device or put it on a base station. There's a base station there that charges the device and also uploads information about the device, its use, those tremor measurements that I mentioned before. All of that gets uploaded to the cloud.
Wow. Now, sounds like there's been a lot of thought put into this, and you've been a part of the research, of course, that's going into it. What were some of the biggest lessons learned, and this, of course, just seamless trajectory that had no problems? But if you had any, what were your lessons learned that took care of it?
Yeah. One of the key lessons is the importance of clinical data. Cala has run a number of clinical studies, including randomized controlled trials, longitudinal studies where we assess the effects of TAPS therapy over the course of many months. We perform real world analyses in patients who are using Cala out in the real world and looking at how they're using therapy and how much benefit they get. And over these various studies and analyses, we've assessed over 2,000 patients. And having these clinical data sets and corresponding publications and peer-reviewed journals is really critical in getting buy-in from various stakeholders that this therapy is beneficial for patients. And as part of these studies, we like to show both that there's a reduction in tremor that as quantified by the postural hold, but also measure the impacts on patients' functional abilities. So measure how they're able to perform activities of daily living and have them perform specific tasks to eat, drink, write, and do other things, and look at how TAPS improves their ability to perform these activities. And then in addition, clinical assessments performed by clinicians to use gold standard scores. This clinical data set has been so important for us to overcome key translational challenges, both getting FDA clearance, getting coverage for Cala from various payers, and then of course getting adoption by physicians and getting patient trust. And so this is one of the key lessons learned is just the importance of doing clinical studies early and often to support the translational pathway along the way. One of the key challenges for Cala, along with many other companies, of course, was the COVID-19 pandemic. And one of the biggest challenges that we ran into there was in trying to expand the labeling for Cala to include not only essential tremor but Parkinson's disease as well. And we had just begun a study to assess Cala TAPS therapy in a Parkinson's population as the pandemic was beginning, and had to call off that initial study, and of course put a little bit of a damper on our timelines. What we were able to do there is through kind of adapting to the circumstances, creating a new study that was a purely decentralized study. Patients did not need to come to a clinic for any visits. We were able to have patients in their own home use TAPS therapy, perform clinical assessments via telemedicine, and really collect the data that we needed to help support our FDA submission to try to expand into a indication for Parkinson's disease. And so that was another difficult challenge for us, but successful, and we did ultimately get a labeling for Parkinson's disease with that study, with that purely kind of decentralized study.
Wow. Yeah. That's a feat. Most people got to sit on their hands and do nothing during COVID, and you guys were dedicated to something bigger. And amidst that, you found ways to get virtual data or remote data to support an FDA-based submission. I think that's impressive. So about the FDA, then explain the process for the original therapy and what it's been like to work with them. And you mentioned a lot of clinical data, but going back to how you submitted the product and what was the original effort like.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, FDA does such important work. In my interactions with FDA, I've just been so impressed with the experience of the reviewers who are reviewing our applications. And in pursuing the initial indication for essential tremor, this was cleared by FDA back in 2018, and because the Cala TAPS therapy and the device were so novel, there was no predicate device, meaning no similar device. Cala needed to go through what is called the de Novo Pathway. In contrast, if there's a similar device as the one that a company is trying to bring to market, sometimes there's a faster pathway called the 510(k) pathway to try to get clearance. In the case of Cala, going through this de novo pathway was the only option, of course, and required good clinical evidence to demonstrate the safety and efficacy of TAPS therapy. And this initial clearance was supported by a randomized controlled trial that compared TAPS therapy against a sham therapy and demonstrated significant improvements in various clinical scores, various functional scores like activity of daily living assessments compared to sham, and that really is what supported that initial application. I mentioned Parkinson's disease and that label expansion. Cala received a FDA breakthrough designation for Parkinson's disease, and that was quite helpful in expediting review for expanding into a Parkinson's disease indication. For both essential tremor and Parkinson's disease, the specific indication is temporary relief of hand tremor symptoms impacting adults either with essential tremor or Parkinson's disease. And the Parkinson's disease indication was supported by a study that evaluated the efficacy and safety of TAPS in Parkinson's patients over the course of 1 month. And this was the study that we needed to adapt to during COVID, and is the one that helped us get that clearance.
Wow. Yes, the FDA does do wonderful work, and I think you guys innovated fast and rapidly through COVID, and the amazing patients' lives changed. But see, the progression you've had is a therapy idea out of the biodesign into an FDA clearance and a product and a therapy from understanding DBS and deep brain stimulation. And then coming to market. And so when you guys have been in market, you said since roughly 2018, tell me a little bit about the commercial journey and lessons learned, because at the end of the day, it's got to get out there. It has to be sold at a certain price, and it has to find its way into the patients to really, actually be the benefit that it was dreamed to be.
Sure. Yeah. So Cala TAPS therapy first went to market in 2019, and this was the first generation device was called Cala Trio. As mentioned before, that's since been replaced by the current generation device called Cala Kick. It's in entering the market. Even when you have FDA clearance, there's still another major hurdle to overcome. And this is in reimbursement, in identifying and working with payers who are willing to support patients with coverage of the device. And so that became a major focus point for us in trying to enable access to this TAPS therapy for patients. And it's a long, arduous process to gain coverage in the medical device space. Before gaining coverage, there was an option for patients to pay out of pocket, and some patients did pursue that, but others, of course, waited until their insurer was covering therapy. And it can take years after a new product is on the market to gain coverage, especially when it's a new product category, like TAPS therapy. And it was, as I mentioned before, it was so critical to have a extensive portfolio of clinical evidence that we could share with various payers on these specific Cala TAPS devices that would help us would help us to convince payers that it was the right thing to cover the device. And so in about 2020, the Veterans Health Administration started covering Cala TAPS therapy for its veterans, first for essential tremor and then later Parkinson's disease. As well, more recently in early 2014, the CMS, Medicare made a decision to cover Cala TAPS therapy for patients meeting certain eligibility criteria, and that was quite a challenge. There was much discussion, again, utilizing our clinical evidence portfolio and to convince the CMS and its contractors to cover this therapy, and we were very delighted when the decision was made to cover. So now, many patients access therapy through the Veterans Health Administration, Medicare. In addition, some private health insurance companies also cover TAPS therapy.
Wow, those are huge feats. I know from those experiences that it's not easy. It takes time, and it's probably not done. Are you guys, is it all done, or what's next on the market access? You just have to continue doing what you're doing.
We're just have to continue doing what we're doing. It's this particular aspect is never quite finished. There are many different payers out there. It's a very distributed healthcare system, and oftentimes it's kind of talking to individual payers one at a time to help them make that determination and ensure that their patients can access therapy. Yeah.
It's worth it, right, to get it there in the end. And for all the effort and all the work that you guys have put into this, what was the moment for you, to a patient you've encountered or a story you've heard from your team? What was the moment you knew that this was just working? It was impacting lives. It was something that really was shifting things.
Yeah, there have been a number of patient stories that have really been moving to me. Our customer success team, who interfaces directly with patients, oftentimes sends really nice stories about how patients before getting TAPS therapy couldn't eat soup without spilling the soup everywhere due to their tremor, couldn't put on makeup. Um, uh, uh, and with TAPS therapy, they were able to do those activities again. One story that really stands out for me is hearing about a veterinary pathologist who had been battling essential tremor for many years, and it had gotten so bad for them that they weren't able to attend an award ceremony related to their field that they had created. It was their ceremony that they were overseeing, and could no longer attend it due to the severity of their disease. And they were so frustrated with the tremors, and were preparing to undergo an invasive DBS surgery. And before they did that, they tried Cala TAPS therapy, and over a single weekend found that the results were so significant for them that they decided to forego DBS surgery at the time. So that was really a nice story, and kind of demonstrates the benefits that some patients can see. I've heard stories about a grandfather who after years of struggling with tremor was able to help their grandchildren learn to tie their shoes with the control that they got with Cala TAPS therapy. Some patients have even mentioned they've started taking up rock climbing after TAPS therapy. And besides these physical benefits, there's also a psychological benefit that many patients get. With essential tremor, the rates of depression and anxiety can be higher than in the healthy population, and often this is caused by social isolation. People don't want to go out to dinner with their friends, and due to tremor and potential embarrassment around that. And with TAPS, they feel capable. They can live life on their own terms, and it really helps not only with the physical symptoms, but for some patients can help them with those other challenges as well.
Yeah, Alex, with going from, Biodesign Institute and university work, translating that into a device and finding a market fit, being essential tremors at first, and then getting FDA clearance on top of all of that. That's a long process full of a lot of people's hard work and ingenuity. So now you're commercializing, and I believe you said you got FDA clearance in 2018, 2019. What was going to market like, finding people to buy it, to prescribe it, to pricing, those kinds of things all come together. And a lot of times that's not where engineers are are known to be good at. So tell me and inform our community a bit about how market access and commercial launch look like.
Absolutely. So the first commercialized device came to market in 2019. This was the Cala Trio device, an earlier generation than Cala Kick that we offer today. And when this first came to market, it was available to patients via cash pay, where patients needed to pay out of pocket if they wanted access, and many patients did. But of course, others wanted to wait for their insurer to cover the device. And that sets yet another major challenge for bringing in new medical technology to market. Even after FDA clearance, gaining reimbursement for this device can be a long process, can typically take years. After a device first comes to market, before it becomes covered by insurers. And this is especially true for a new product category like Cala TAPS therapy. And so we needed to have conversations with various payers, and again, presenting our clinical evidence portfolio to to really demonstrate the benefits to patients and the improvement that they see both in their tremor levels and their ability to do functional activities. And these conversations were supported by the extensive clinical portfolio and publications that we had from the past. And so today we're fortunate enough to have coverage provided by both Medicare and Veterans Health Administration, along with a handful of private insurers. And this especially for Medicare coverage was a extensive process, lots of back and forth in sharing our clinical evidence and making the case for TAPS therapy. And we were delighted when CMS made a coverage determination back in early 2024 to cover Medicare beneficiaries who met specific inclusion criteria, met specific eligibility criteria, rather. And in addition to that, there is coverage available by the Veterans Health Administration for veterans. And so we continue to pursue additional coverage. At this point, it's a lot of individual conversations with payers, individual payers, and just trying to make the case that TAPS therapy is a great option for their patients.
Yeah, well, it's a tough. It seems like it's a never-ending battle. What is it? Does it ever end? Is there are you done once you get that, or do you have to continue pursuing or getting more clinical data or talking to more people?
We continue to gather more clinical data. We recently published a relatively new study comparing TAPS therapy to standard of care over 1 month of use. And this new study and its publication, along with several other studies that are ongoing, continue to help support these conversations and try to address any limitations that are noted by payers where they would like to see additional data. And this is a never-ending process, and it's one that we are motivated to pursue to help patients gain access to therapy. And so, as I mentioned, we continue to have individual conversations with other payers to expand coverage.
It's great. So looking beyond essential tremors and Parkinson's, what else is on the mind of using this unique technology of sensing and stimulating non-invasively? What's in the pipeline, and how do you see the technology being applied in other realms?
Non-invasive electrical stimulation therapy holds promise for a range of conditions beyond essential tremor and Parkinson's disease. And we as Cala see potential in treating various neurological disorders, especially where precise modulation of neural circuits can provide relief without the side effects that are often seen with conventional therapy. So taking the same mindset that Kate and Cala had in the early days, identifying clear unmet needs and applying that, looking forward to new disease indications. So we're moving forward in a measured way, exploring various conditions that we may be able to effectively treat with non-invasive therapies. And we want to make sure that every new application that we look at is backed by solid clinical evidence. And we look forward to sharing these clinical findings as these programs move towards serving patients.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting how you guys have been able to do so many patients in your research, how the science comes first, and it seems like it needs to come first to even make that market entry. The patients, the doctors, everyone needs that data. And because it's non-invasive, it seems like it should be so easy to get, or you don't have to worry about the hoops of surgery. So I have the question, how quickly are you able to prototype, and how quickly do you think you're different than a surgical device? As we think about a non-invasive, you're able to rapidly move and rapidly change, potentially faster than any type of surgical device that needs a software update and class 3 level safety data.
That's right. We are able to really innovate rapidly, and prototype either hardware changes, or oftentimes we do need to make a firmware change to change how the device delivers therapy. But because this is a non-invasive class 2 device, the pathway to evaluating these changes is a little easier, as you mentioned, Chad, than would be for the case of an invasive class 3 device. And one thing that's really driven Cala, both within the R&D space, but as a company overall, is rapid experimentation. Let's learn what works and what doesn't. Failure is okay, but let's try to figure that out as quickly as possible. And within the research realm, that means that we're able to quickly test new ideas, new ways of delivering therapy that may be beneficial for some patients. And so that's been one really, really nice advantage that Cala has, is the ability to rapidly innovate. Another key aspect of Cala is putting patients at the center. This is infused within the company culture, that we want to listen to patients, understand their experience, and design treatments that meet the needs that they express, and helps them within the context of their daily life. We don't want to deliver something that adds burden to patients. We want to make therapies that integrate well into their daily life. And so because of that, we're often having discussions with patients and their physicians to get early feedback about new ideas, new designs, and incorporating that feedback. So we make sure we're delivering the most beneficial therapeutic device that we can. And I'll add one other thing here, which is the fact that this is a home use device, and is accessible to patients through, for example, telemedicine and drop shipping of a device if a patient has a prescription, really allows for this therapy to reach patients in the comfort of their own home, without necessarily needing frequent in-person visits as may be needed for a invasive surgical approach. And this is especially helpful, of course, in patients who live in more remote geographical areas, those looking for more affordable treatment options than an invasive procedure. So there's a great accessibility that a wearable device like Cala provides, and is a major advantage over some of the other treatment options available.
No, it's an amazing therapy. I've had a really good time watching Cala rise and see the impacts that it's made and the hurdles that have been crossed. I think Cala's in it for the long haul, and it's an amazing success story for non-invasive therapies. And I think most patients, everyone agrees that it'd be nice to not go under the knife. Not only that, but you're having an world-class treatment with PAPS and with Cala. So thank you so much for joining us, Alex. And is there any other final words from you?
Chad, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today, and really enjoyed our discussion, and look forward to continuing to discuss Cala therapy with you and others in the future.
Great. Well, thank you. And thank you everybody for joining us. You'll see this a couple times every year, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.